Welcome to the recording of the Somerset Senior Living Self-Care Saturday program called Less Stress for the Holidays. This is a special training that has been designed for people who were not able to make it to that Saturday program. So I'm Dr. Marlena Uhrik, and I am your presenter for today. So less stress for the holidays. Whoa, what a timely topic. Before we get started, I do have a disclaimer, as all professionals do. So just so you know, the content in this presentation is provided as an information resource only. This information should not be used as a substitute for diagnosis or treatment. So please consult your healthcare provider for guidance about a specific medical condition. Always Learning LLC disclaims any responsibility or liability as a result of your reliance on this information. So, the purpose of today's presentation. Here's some things that you're going to be learning. You're going to be learning how to recognize what are your triggers for what we call the holiday blues. You'll also learn how to deal with holiday stress during the COVID-19 and variant time in our lives here. I'll be presenting some quick tips for reducing holiday stress, along with some mindfulness tips and exercise to de-stress during this holiday season. You will leave with some top tips for a healthy holiday season. So if this sounds like something you're interested in, then you've come to the right place. So our goal is to make sure that you have some tools and strategies that could bring you greater calm, more inner peace, and just better health and increased happiness during this holiday season. So let's start off with the ideal holiday season. Well, we all have that picture in our mind about what it, quote, should look like. For instance, you may conjure up your holiday season with a picture in your mind of like a snowy Christmas scene with a house with a chimney from the fire going in the chimney and with smoke coming out of that, and beautiful snowy winter landscape. And you might even be thinking about sitting around that family dining room table with everybody being happy and so excited and loving. And, you know, just like Norman Rockwell had pictured for us. But the reality is that the holidays are so stressful. But why? Well, let's take a look. We've got, first of all, holiday store displays starting in August. There's planning for the holiday dinner. How many people, which people, what kind of food, is everything going to turn out okay? Then there's the holiday cards and stamps that you've got to take care of. And then family traditions. Oh, you know, they play an important role in some families. It's like making sure certain things happen or don't happen, certain topics happen and don't happen. And the list goes on. And then, of course, there's mailing packages and waiting in long lines, either at the post office or FedEx or whatever. Then there's special cooking and baking. And then there's gaining the weight from the special cooking and baking. And then there's parties with even more special cooking and baking. And of course, holiday music. Every place you go, holiday music. And even in the elevators, right? And of course, you've got to have Christmas lights that go up, you know, along with family and relatives maybe coming in from out of town for celebrating the holidays with you. So again, standing in long lines, no matter wherever you go, buying presents, trying to make it all work with the money that you have for the presents, or maybe the money you don't have, and you're going, oh, how can I make this happen? And of course, there's winter weather, which in most places is always colder, even here in California. They've got all tons of decorations that have to happen inside, outside, and there's religious practices. No matter what religion you have, you know, there are certain things that occur for many people during this time of year that are special and actually part of family traditions. And now we have a pandemic and a variant that is on top of all of this. So it's not surprising that the holiday season is actually listed as one of the stressors in the Holmes Rahe stress management scale. So you're not alone. You're not alone. So how about those triggers? What can they be? We're talking conversations, family, and expectations. So what we found is that, most of us have like this kind of dreamy thought about what Christmas should be like, and we all want everybody to be happy. But the fact is that not everybody is happy during this time of year. So I ask people to consider creating a realistic approach to your holidays. First of all, don't expect a Christmas miracle, and learn to say no and give the first gift to yourself, the gift of time. So how do you know like when all of this is happening? How do you recognize your triggers for the holiday blues? Well, here is a list of some physical and emotional kinds of signals to yourself that you could be looking for to see if indeed, some of these might pertain to you or somebody that you know or you love or you live with. So mood swings, drastic shifts in moods is like a clue for the holiday blues. Exhaustion, feelings of exhaustion and fatigue, and sometimes change in appetite. It can go one way or another. It could be like not eating to like eating a bunch. So with that usually comes digestive issues, headaches, pessimism, just thinking, can I get through this all? People get irritable. People sometimes get emotionally disconnected. There's feelings of anxiety, depression, desperation, just trouble focusing and being productive. And sometimes that's when people with addictions really are hit the hardest. So maybe Santa was right. What do you think? Take a look at this quote from humorist Victor Borge, who said, "Santa Claus has the right idea. Visit people once a year." All right, we'll see. So, but how can we find some joy and some peace during this time? First of all, find a way to kind of express your feelings and acknowledge them to yourselves and maybe to the people around you. Be able to feel like you can reach out to your community, whether that's online support, going to some websites that are helpful for you. Even virtual events can offer super support and companionship during a time where you might have all these feelings of the holiday blues. And be realistic. And we want our holidays to be perfect. We want everything to turn out just right. But the truth of it is that it doesn't always happen that way. And at some point we need to be able to like just recognize that and maybe even laugh at ourselves when that pudding doesn't turn out right, or something boils over, or a big mistake has been made. So one of the things you can do is lighten your load, share the task. Again, learn to say no and set your limits on times at events and visits, especially if you have a hard time being around some of those relatives or other people. I like to recommend using technology to your advantage. Things like FaceTime and Zoom have really been a godsend for us because of the fact that, all last year, with COVID, we were locked down. We could not visit, in the state of California, we were quarantined. So just being able to have Zoom was such a gift. And how cool would it be to maybe share some of the experiences on Zoom if you can't be there in person? You could share having dinner together, a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, or maybe even opening up your gifts. Find a time to set this to be a time to set aside grievances and any differences. And just realize that some of those people that you have in your life, you may have to learn to forgive at some point, at some level. We talked about one of the stressors being the sticking to the budget and having money as just kind of like, oh, everything you see you want to buy, and thinking that we have to buy for everybody. And I remember being a single parent and knowing that it just wasn't going to be a very Merry Christmas, and so just whipped out that credit card and borrowed some money and just wanted to make sure my kids had a great Christmas. But I wound up paying for that Christmas almost the whole entire year. So, it's like one of the lessons learned, because actually the most important part, and especially as you get older, is like, hey, just being together. So be sure to carve some time out for yourself. Slow down, take a long, deep breath, and restore your inner calm. And remember to keep those healthy habits that you already have, like eating healthy meals and regular physical activity and plenty of sleep, especially during the winter time. So this is a time when our bodies need to be recharged, and sleeping is like really one of the best ways to help with that. And with the help of this presentation, I hope that you will be able to learn for yourself those holiday stress triggers and relievers, and financial pressures and personal demands are one of them. And with help, for those who want some help, there it comes hope. So what are the 5 tips for a healthy holiday season? 1, start the day with a healthy breakfast. Our moms told us that the most important meal of the day is breakfast. So don't skip over that important meal. Start the day off right. Eating healthy throughout the day, but how can you do that during the holidays? And you've got all those potlucks and family gatherings and dinner with friends, and everything looks so good, and you want to have it all. And at some point we've got to figure out how can we keep it going and enjoy the moment, and not have those regrets afterwards of eating too much and wishing that we hadn't. So getting a good night's rest, as we talked about, at least 7 hours a night, and staying active. Feel free to take that walk, or even put on some music and dance, or stretch, or do some yoga or Tai Chi, or cycling. Even if you have an indoor kind of gym, perfect time to make sure that you keep those healthy habits. And again, making sure you have time for relaxation, prayer, and meditation. So I read where Oprah has a solution to all of this, especially when it comes to those holiday sweets. It was just a really sweet little story about how Oprah, as you probably know, and she's always shared, she's had a problem with weight. And one of the solutions she came up with was when she is tempted to reach for that holiday sweet, she tells herself that this is a holy moment. And with that, she feels as though it gives her the strength to make the right decision for herself, to incorporate that pause, that thought that this is a holy moment. And when you do that, the brain has a chance to kind of relax and think, do I really need that? Do I want it? Do I need it? And you might change your mind. So what are some good strategies that we can use for the raving cravings? This is what I do, especially before I go to a potluck, because I am one of those that'll just pile my plate high with food, because again, it looks oh so good. And it's like my eyes are bigger than my stomach. I want everything I see. So what I've learned to do is to do some food prep ahead of time, eat some carrot, celery. Sometimes I will even eat a small meal before I go to a potluck, so I just don't overdo it, because it just all looks so good. So be really aware too of the consequences of sugar, and especially for people who have a tendency towards blood sugar levels that go up and down, and people who have diabetes. Sugar can just bring on some really negative consequences for all of us. So again, be able to stay active but not too active, and say yes to some peace of mind by scheduling some downtime to recharge. So what's interesting is how the brain works when we actually experience something enjoyable. There's such a thing that's been referred to as the happiness chemicals. So you can see on this chart here that Dopamine actually gets released from our brain when we feel rewarded. And how we feel rewarded is by some simple things like finishing a task, celebrating small wins, and the self-care activities that we've mentioned here. Exercise is a great way to release dopamine and endorphins, and listening to music and expressing gratitude. These are all ways that gives us that kind of chemical kind of release for that where we feel like moving forward. Oxytocin does its own thing for creating that sense of love and contentment. And oxytocin comes through healthy relationships and hugging friends and family and playing with your dog, helping others. These all bring on feelings and chemical releases in our brain that help us deal with a lot of our experiences that we're having. Serotonin, known as a mood stabilizer, and that's why it's so important for us to really keep those healthy practices of meditating, doing yoga, deep breathing, running, and even serotonin gets released during sitting out in the sun. And endorphins, a special painkiller, happens during laughter and dancing, eating dark chocolate, again, meditation, and even with vanilla and lavender as flavors or scents for us. Endorphins are released to give us that feel-good feeling. So taking a look at how we can be reframing our thoughts when we're feeling overwhelmed, when we're feeling like, how do we make a right decision? So I ask you, what have these last 12 to 18 months taught you about yourself and others? So often we experience lessons learned from experiences that we've had. So maybe you've had a chance to reflect about what occurred for you that got you through this special, stressful time during COVID. Stop and think, what things seemed important to you? What things did you love doing? What things did you find out about yourself? What did you find out about others? In the class that I taught, I talked about the 10 tools and strategies that you can use to help you through these everyday changes and things that can change your life forever. There are a few of these exercises that I would like to point out so that those of you who are listening can actually try on some of these things to see how they would work for you. Our class is typically 2 hours long with a break in between, and there's a lot of interaction and sharing during the class. So this presentation is going to be a little bit different. But I did want to hit on some of these tools and strategies so that you feel that you've come away with some things that will help you. So let's take a look at number 1 here, visualization. We talk about the mind being so powerful. What exactly does that mean? Well, if I said, well, close your eyes and picture 2 polar bears, what do you actually see 2 polar bears? I bet many of you would report, yeah, I see 2 polar bears. They're sitting right there. However that shows up in your mind, which is kind of an illustration to show just how powerful the mind is and how powerful the mind is in taking the words or the images or your thoughts and creating a picture in your mind. So this is kind of a reminder about really focusing on those positive things that are going to have you feel good. It could be a visualization of a sunset or a sunrise or something special to you. Using imagery, this is another very powerful exercise because, again, our neuroscience tells us that imagery is very powerful. It's a very powerful technique because if I asked you to close your eyes and to imagine smelling a flower. If you took a long, deep breath and smelled a flower, you could probably smell a flower. And if I asked you to just imagine in your mind to blow out a candle, you could probably almost experience yourself blowing out that candle without actually doing it. So learning to focus and learning how mindfulness can really increase our awareness is really one of the tools and strategies that is going to take us through a lot of stressful times and even our everyday life, along with prayer and meditation. So much emphasis too has been on expressions of gratitude. And again, during this last 12 to 18 months where we've had a chance to really focus on not only what was happening around the world and in our own community and maybe in our own families, but also that some of those negative things showed up everywhere. But when we took time to really shift our thinking and to reframe our thoughts, to focus on the things that we are thankful for, the gratitude for waking up, the gratitude for seeing the sunrise, the gratitude for having your dog next to your side. They were just a wonderful way of saying thank you. And that sets a whole different wavelength to your brain and to your thinking and throughout your body. And affirmations are another way of staying positive and putting that message into your body, mind, and spirit. Movement, again, is like one of those strategies for just really changing your chemistry and having those endorphins be released, and having your negative thoughts, might be your negative thoughts, they'll change to like something that would be so much more positive. Again, looking at our mindset and reframing our thoughts to something positive, that's something that we can relate to, that can give us hope and strength. So let's keep on reaching out and finding ways to stay connected, because in the end, that seems to be one of the most powerful things we have discovered. So I have here just a little worksheet that we used in the workshop called Make a Commitment to Yourself. And the idea here is that you could actually write it out for yourself, those of you who are listening. Today, like your name, I commit myself to, what is it that you would like to commit yourself to during this holiday kind of stressful time? And what would be your intended result? What would you want to have as a result of what you've made a commitment to? Remember that you're worth it and you deserve it, and sign your letter of commitment to yourself. If you'd like more information, feel free to give me a call. I'm Dr. Marlena Uhrik. I'm an award-winning author. Many of my books are located on my website, alwayslearning.org, and also amazing-staging.com. So thank you so much for joining us today. And I look forward to having this be a beautiful, wonderful holiday season for you, your family, your loved ones, your friends, and for our planet. Thank you for listening.